The reason that you are where you are is because you chose to be where you are in order to act as a conduit to bring that energy to Earth and manifest it in whatever way is relevant to the Earth experience, to allow the Earth to transform. Because every single one of you that are on Earth now, in some way, shape, or form, chose to be on Earth now because you knew that you would be going through a transition and a transformation at this time in your planet's history, and on some level, in some way, you wanted to participate. You wanted to be a part of that because it's a very exciting place to be right now. As you say in your language, it's where it's happening. It is one of the most highly focused places right now that we are aware of in creation for the idea of transition and transformation. It is one of the few places that has gone as deeply into the dark as you have, that we are aware of. And thus then, when a planet, when a civilization, when a collective consciousness can allow itself to experience such a great degree of darkness and yet still find its way to the light, that is special. That is powerful. And believe me, you attract the attention of many other beings from many other dimensions to see how you did it, how you're doing it, because that's exciting, because that's creation in the making. That's raw creation, going from absolute dark to absolute light. That's creation in a nutshell. So thank you for your strength, for your commitment, for your willingness to go through this transition. It's a powerful thing to have done, and it shows you, just by being where you are, it shows you how powerful you actually are. So never lose sight of that. To be where you are on Earth at this time means you are powerful beings who knew what you were doing when you chose this reality, and even though you have forgotten that you knew what you were doing, you still know what you're doing. One of the ways you have allowed yourself to co-create a way to remember that you knew what you were doing is through your creation of us. Bringing an opportunity to you to remind you, which we are happy to do, to remind you of how powerful you are. So we thank you for the opportunity. We thank you for the gift you have bestowed upon us to allow us to be those that remind you who you are. Thank you for allowing us to be your alarm clock and help you wake up. Ding. Time to wake up. Time to be more aware of more of who you are, so that you can, with open eyes and certainty, live your life with full conviction, responding as you want to. Responding as you prefer to, no matter what's going on in your reality. And getting the effect from that response that you deserve, that you now know you deserve to get. Regardless of what anyone else is doing, regardless of what anyone else's intention toward you may be, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. You matter. What you say matters. Becomes matter. Energy to matter. Non-physical to physical. The effect comes from your willingness to have the conviction to know your relationship to whatever you experience, whoever you experience, no matter the situation, no matter the circumstances. While you are on Earth, for a while, you will still experience many people and many situations that are not reflective of your preference, because that's the nature of Earth. Many people will make the assumption that just because they are changing themselves, they will suddenly no longer have to ever interact with anyone who is not of their frequency. No. You are still on the Earth. It's still going to be a mix of things for a little while longer, but that's okay. It still gives you an opportunity to see in absolute example what you do and don't prefer. It always gives you a way to gauge where you're at relative to the things you see that you know are not who you are, who you prefer to be, who you prefer to deal with. So use that as an opportunity. Don't think there is something wrong just because, well, I've changed myself and I'm a more spiritual person, so why am I still getting people in my life that are not acting in a spiritual way? Shouldn't I be better than that? Shouldn't I be above that? Shouldn't I be beyond that? No. The idea, remember, first of all, remember, is that you're on Earth. That's what Earth is all about. Polarity. Right now, it's still all about the idea of different examples of different ways of doing things, dark and light. And remember, the idea in integration is that you have something to integrate. If it's all just light, there's nothing to integrate. So, becoming more of yourself is also becoming more aware, not only of the light, but also of the dark. The more aware you become of the light and the dark choices, then the more you can choose openly and clearly what you prefer. It's not about excluding, it's about including. It's about knowing that you have choice still to go into the dark if you want to, but now it's knowing you don't have to. But that doesn't mean you won't see the dark choice. It means you'll become more aware of the dark choice. But now it means you become aware of the dark choice just as a choice, not as a given, not as an absolute, not as something that has more power over you, just as a neutral choice, like any other choice. It's just a choice. Hey, come into the dark. No thanks. Not because you're afraid, just because you know it's not your preference. It's just not your preference. But in order to know it's not your preference, you have to be aware that it's a choice you could still make, and you can make that choice at any time. If you couldn't make that choice, if you were not aware you had the choice to go into the dark, you would not be a fully empowered being to make a choice to go into the light. That's the whole point. So don't think something is wrong because suddenly you are still finding yourself interacting with people who are not of the vibration of integrity. It's giving you an opportunity to decide whether or not you still want to play that game or whether you wish to make another choice. That's all right. They do not have any power to affect you as long as you do not agree to be affected. So that's why it's so important to respond differently as if you have changed, no matter what's going on in the situation around you. And the way you get more in touch with the idea of who you are is by now beginning to really deeply understand your soul blueprint, what living this life is all about, what the theme is really all about, which is the freedom to choose no matter what. And allow yourself to move with conviction and commitment in that direction, but not in avoidance of anything. There's no avoiding. If you wish to grow and expand, you cannot avoid, because there is nowhere to avoid anything. There is nowhere to go. There is only here and now. You cannot run away from anything. You must invite it in and accept it as a part of who you are if you're really going to have the freedom to choose who you want to be. It's all about inclusion and integration, not exclusion and segregation anymore. That's the old pattern. That's not you anymore. If it was, we would not be having this conversation. So take that as a sign that it's time to know more of who you are. Be more of who you are and accept the dark and the light that you have and use it in a positive way. Just because you're aware of the dark doesn't mean you become the darkness. It just means you're aware of more of who you are, and that's a positive thing. That's a positive thing.